Imagine spending your life building a dream for someone you love only to be shoved into a corner of their fairy tale, hidden away like a dirty secret. I'm Eleanor, 64, and at my daughter Sophie's wedding, a day I poured my heart and savings into, I wasn't a guest of honor. I was relegated to the kitchen, watching through a cracked door as the celebration I funded unfolded without me. But when the cake was cut and the toasts were made, I made a call that brought it all crashing down. I'm a YouTube storyteller, and today I'm sharing a story of betrayal, quiet rage, and the moment I took back my power. Let's dive into the day my daughter's wedding became a lesson she'll never forget. I've always believed that love means giving everything even when it hurts. As a single mother, I raised Sophie on a nurse's salary, working double shifts at the hospital to afford her ballet lessons, her prom dress, her college applications. I remember the nights I'd come home at 3 a.m., my feet throbbing to find her asleep with a book on her chest, her dreams bigger than our tiny apartment could hold. I gave her my all, thinking it would bind us forever. So when she got engaged to Nathan, a charming lawyer with a smile that could sell ice to a penguin, I was over the moon. I offered to pay for the wedding, every detail from the venue to the flowers, because I wanted her to have the day I never did. I spent $1,000 my life savings on a restored barn with fairy lights, a 5-tier vanilla raspberry cake, and a custom cocktail bar. I thought I was building a memory we'd share, a moment where she'd look at me and say, "Mom, thank you." But the day of the wedding, I arrived in a lilac dress. I'd saved months to buy my hair curled, just the way Sophie used to love when she was little. I'd spent hours getting ready, imagining her smile when she saw me, the mother who'd made her dream day possible. Instead, I was met with a cold nod from Nathan's mother, Lorraine, who barely looked up from her champagne flute. There was no seat for me in the ceremony, no nameplate at the reception. A young waiter, barely out of his teens, shuffled me to the kitchen with an awkward smile. "They said you're supposed to wait back here, ma'am," he mumbled, pointing to a folding chair by a tray of half-eaten appetizers. The bride wanted, a cohesive aesthetic. I stood there, blinking, the scent of garlic and grease thick in the air, the heat from the ovens pressing against my back. My lilac dress felt like a costume, my curled hair a cruel joke. I sat down, the chair creaking under me, a paper napkin tossed over the seat as if it could hide the humiliation. Through the swinging kitchen door, I caught glimpses of the reception, Sophie and Nathan twirling under golden lights, the floral arch I'd paid $2,000 for framing their perfect moment. Laughter spilled through the crack, each burst a reminder of where I wasn't. I clutched my small purse, a gift from Sophie on a long-ago Mother's Day, and felt my hands tremble, a quiet vibration, like a storm, brewing under my skin. I didn't cry. Not then. I told myself it was Sophie's day, that I shouldn't make a scene, that my role as her mother meant staying silent, staying strong. But as I sat there, the cold chicken on a chipped plate in front of me, the program in my hand, no mention of me, just Lorraine giving the first toast, Nathan's father walking Sophie down the aisle, I felt something crack inside me. It wasn't grief, not yet. It was rage, a quiet, controlled fury that had been simmering for years, waiting for this moment to ignite. Let me share a bit of context here. I've been on YouTube for a while, telling stories of resilience and redemption, often drawing from my own life as a nurse and single mother. I've learned that stories like mine resonate because they're raw, real, and relatable, especially for women like us who've given so much only to be overlooked. This story, though, hits harder. It's not just about a wedding. It's about the betrayal of a bond I thought was unbreakable. As a storyteller, I've seen how exclusion can cut deeper than any knife, especially when it comes from those we love most. In my years of sharing, I've heard from viewers who face similar moments, being sidelined at family events, their sacrifices ignored. It's a universal pain, one I felt in that kitchen, and one I knew I couldn't let define me. As I sat in that kitchen, the clatter of pots and the sharp tang of garlic oil filling the air, I tried to hold on to the mother I'd always been, the one who stayed silent, who sacrificed, who believed love meant enduring anything for Sophie's happiness. but every burst of laughter from the reception hall, every glimpse of her twirling in Nathan's arms under the fairy lights I'd paid for, was a shard of glass in my heart. I looked down at my hands, the soft pink polish on my nails chipped at the edges, my fingers still trembling with that quiet vibration I couldn't shake. I'd spent $30,000 on this wedding, my life savings as a nurse, and yet here I was relegated to a folding chair beside a tray of shrimp cocktail. The cold chicken on my plate, a bitter metaphor for the warmth I'd been denied. The kitchen door swung open again, and I caught a fleeting view of the head table, Nathan's mother, Lorraine, draped in a sapphire gown, her pearls gleaming like she'd been born into royalty, not a suburban dentist's wife. She was giving a toast, her voice syrupy with fake tears. "We're so blessed to welcome Sophie into our family. She's the daughter we always dreamed of." The crowd cheered, glasses clinking, and I felt my throat tighten, the taste of bile rising. Lorraine had met me only twice before the wedding, each time with a tight smile and a dismissive nod, never once thanking me for the payments that made this day possible. Next to her, Nathan's father boomed with laughter, his speech echoing to our new daughter Sophie and the perfect son-in-law we've always wanted. I waited for Sophie to mention me, to acknowledge the woman who'd raised her, who'd worked double shifts to pay for her braces, her dance recitals, her dreams. But her laughter rang out instead, bright and carefree, as if I didn't exist. I pressed the napkin to my mouth, pretending to dab at a stain that wasn't there. But my eyes burned. Not from the onions in the kitchen, but from the betrayal slicing through me. I'd been edited out of their story, reduced to a footnote, a purse string they'd used and discarded. The program in my hand, elegant cursive on cream cardstock, confirmed it. No mention of me, not in the ceremony, not in the speeches. I was the ghost in the kitchen, the mother they didn't want in their perfect picture. I looked at the chipped plate in front of me, the cold chicken untouched, and felt a memory surface. Sophie at 10, her eyes lighting up when I surprised her with a chocolate cake for her birthday, the one I'd worked an extra shift to afford. She'd hugged me so tight that day, her little arms around my neck, whispering, "You're the best mom." That girl was gone, replaced by a woman who'd let her new family hide me away. I thought back to a story a viewer shared in my YouTube comments last year, a woman named Linda, 68, who'd been excluded from her son's graduation party because his new wife thought she didn't fit the vibe. Linda wrote, "I gave him everything and he let her erase me. It broke me, but I learned I deserve better." That comment had stayed with me, a quiet echo of my own pain now. As a storyteller, I've seen how betrayal from those we love cuts deepest, especially for women like us who've spent our lives giving, often at the cost of ourselves. I'd always told myself I'd never let that happen to me, that Sophie and I were different. But here I was, living the same story, the same erasure. The door swung open again, and a young server rushed in her apron stained with marinara. She glanced at me, her eyes flickering with pity, and mumbled, "Do you need anything, ma'am?" I shook my head, my voice trapped in my throat. She hesitated, then added, "I heard the bride say, she didn't want any distractions in the photos." The word hit me like a slap distraction. I'd paid for every detail of this wedding, from the custom neon sign that read, "Forever begins today," to the 5-tier cake Sophie insisted on. Yet I was a distraction, an inconvenience to be hidden away. I looked down at my lilac dress, the one I'd saved for months to buy, and felt a wave of shame quickly swallowed by a rising tide of anger. I'd been silent too long, but that silence was about to end. I pulled out my phone, my hand steadier now, and scrolled through the wedding budget I'd meticulously tracked for over a year. Every expense was there: the $5,000 venue deposit, the $3,000 for the florist, the $2,500 for the band, even the $1,200 for the custom cocktail menu Nathan had insisted on, saying it'll elevate the experience. I'd agreed to it all, never asking for help, never expecting thanks, because I wanted Sophie to have the day I never did. But as I scrolled, I noticed something new. 2 unauthorized charges from just days before the wedding, a $1.500 bar tab from a tasting event, and a $2,000 dinner upgrade at a restaurant where I now realized they'd also relegated me to the back near the kitchen during the rehearsal. My stomach clenched as I saw a Venmo note attached to one of the charges from Nathan to a friend Eleanor's covering, "It all go big for the vibes." The betrayal hit me like a tidal wave, my breath catching as I read the words again. They'd used my card without asking, without a shred of guilt, treating my sacrifices like their personal piggy bank. I'd given everything to Sophie, my time, my money, my heart, and this was how she repaid me, how Nathan and his family saw me a wallet, a means to an end, nothing more. I set the phone down, my hands no longer trembling, my rage no longer quiet. It was a fire now burning through the last threads of restraint I'd clung to. I looked through the swinging door one last time, catching Sophie's smile as she danced with Nathan, her new family cheering her on, and I knew what I had to do. The sight of Sophie's carefree smile through that swinging kitchen door, her laughter echoing as Nathan's family toasted to their perfect new life, was the final spark that set my rage ablaze. I'd given her everything, my savings, my time, my heart, and she'd let them hide me away using my money without a shred of guilt. The Venmo note on my phone screen burned in my mind. Eleanor's covering it all go big. For the vibes, I set the phone down on the chipped counter, the clatter of pots and the sharp tang of grease in the kitchen fading as my focus sharpened. I wasn't the mother who stayed silent anymore. I was done being their wallet, their ghost, their afterthought. My hands were steady now, my heart a quiet furnace of resolve. I knew what I had to do, and I felt a flicker of something I hadn't known in years' power. I picked up my phone again, my fingers moving with a calm precision I hadn't felt in months. I dialed the florist first, the one I'd paid $3,000 to for the brunch arrangement scheduled for tomorrow morning. "This is Eleanor," I said. My voice steady, polite, but firm. "I'm canceling the Sunday delivery for the Whitmore wedding. Please withhold the remaining payment balance, thank you." The florist hesitated, her tone disappointed, but I didn't offer an explanation. I didn't owe her one. Next, I called the band, the ones I'd paid $2,500 for a 2-day performance. "Due to a change in the event schedule, we won't need the second set," I said, my voice unwavering. "Please consider the matter closed." Finally, I called the bar vendor, the ones who'd racked up a $1.500 tab on my card without permission. "We're scaling back post-reception services," I told them. "Cancel the second shift and do not process the remaining balance." 3 calls, 3 cuts, each one, a deliberate severing of the strings they'd tied around me. I set the phone down, the kitchen's chaos fading into the background as a strange calm settled over me. I didn't feel guilt, didn't feel regret, just that quiet hum of power like an engine revving to life after years of dormancy. I looked at the chipped plate in front of me, the cold chicken still untouched, and pushed it away. The door swung open again, and I caught a glimpse of the reception, Sophie and Nathan still dancing, Lorraine raising another glass, the fairy lights casting a golden glow over their perfect little world. Let them celebrate, I thought. Let them feel the absence when the music stops, when the bar runs dry, when the flowers never arrive. Let them wonder why. I stayed in the kitchen until the last bite of dessert was served, the 5-tier vanilla raspberry cake Sophie's favorite, not mine, carved up and distributed to the guests I wasn't allowed to join. I waited until the music hit its peak, the laughter at its loudest, and then I stood smoothing my lilac dress, the fabric creased from sitting so long. I walked out of the kitchen past the servers who barely glanced my way past the bar, where guests were still sipping the cocktails I'd paid for, and out the side door into the cool night air. The silence outside was a balm, the faint hum of crickets and the distant murmur of the city, a stark contrast to the chaos I'd left behind. I stood there for a moment, my breath visible in the chilly air, and felt the weight of 45 years of sacrifices lift just a little. Back in my hotel room, I didn't sleep. I lay on the stiff bed, still in my dress, the scent of kitchen grease clinging to my hair, the faint perfume of roses from the wedding mixing with the sourness of my own sweat. The ceiling fan spun above me, its steady hum a reminder of the storm I'd just set in motion. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, missed calls from Sophie, from Nathan, a text from my niece that read, "Aunt Eleanor, what's going on? Everyone's freaking out." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. They'd feel the consequences soon enough. Around 4 a.m., as the sky outside turned from black to a bruised blue, I sat up, the digital clock glowing red in the dim room. I opened my tablet and pulled up the wedding budget again, staring at the numbers, the transactions, the proof of everything I'd given. But something else caught my eye, a small unopened email from a week ago, buried in my inbox. It was from an old friend, Marissa, who'd worked with me at the hospital years ago. She'd been cleaning out her late father's attic and found something she thought I should see, a letter addressed to me, postmarked from 1980, the year Sophie was born. My hands trembled as I opened the email, downloading the scanned image Marissa had attached. The letter was from my late husband, David, written just days before he left us. His handwriting was slanted familiar, the ink faded but legible. "Eleanor," it began, "I've been carrying a secret I can't take to my grave. Sophie isn't yours. She was born to another woman, a fling I had before we married. I took her in when her mother didn't want her told you she was ours. I thought I could pretend, but I can't anymore. You've loved her like she's your own, and that's more than I deserve. I'm sorry." The words blurred as my eyes burned, not with tears, but with a clarity that cut through 45 years of lies. Sophie wasn't biologically mine, not a mistake, not a shared creation, but a child David had chosen for me to raise a truth he'd hidden while I poured my life into her. I set the letter down, my breath catching my mind racing with memories. Sophie's first steps, her first words, the nights I'd rocked her through fevers, the mornings I'd sewn her school uniforms by hand. I'd built my identity around being her mother, but she'd never truly seen me that way. She'd let Nathan's family hide me in the kitchen, let them use my money without a thought, because to her I was never enough. The betrayal wasn't new. It had been there all along, in every moment she'd chosen convenience over gratitude, in every silence where I'd expected love. But this letter, this truth, was the final piece that set me free. I wasn't just done being her wallet, I was done being her mother. The letter from David lay open on my hotel bed, its faded ink a stark truth that cut through 45 years of illusion. Sophie wasn't mine, not by blood, not by accident, but by a choice David made without my knowledge, leaving me to raise a child who'd never truly seen me as her mother. The revelation should have broken me, but instead it set me free. I'd poured my life into Sophie, working double shifts as a nurse to give her everything only to be hidden in a kitchen at her wedding. My sacrifices reduced to a Venmo note, Eleanor's covering it all go big for the vibes I'd canceled, the brunch flowers, the band's second set, and the open bar with 3 swift calls. But this letter gave me something more, a clarity that I wasn't just done being her wallet. I was done being her mother, done being the invisible woman who gave everything and got nothing in return. At 64, I was ready to reclaim my life, my story, my power. I didn't cry as I packed my bag, the lilac dress still clinging to my skin, the scent of kitchen grease, a faint reminder of the humiliation I'd endured. I checked out of the hotel at dawn on June 3rd, 2025, the Chicago sky a bruised blue, the city waking up as I drove home in silence. The hum of my car's engine was the only sound my thoughts loud and unfiltered. Sophie never saw you. Nathan never cared. Lorraine never thanked you. But for the first time, those thoughts didn't hurt, they fueled me. I pulled into my driveway, the roses I'd planted 2 summers ago blooming in vibrant pinks and yellows, their petals a quiet defiance against the grayness of my past. I didn't stop to admire them. I went straight to my bedroom, opened the drawer where I kept old keepsakes, and pulled out every photo of Sophie, her kindergarten graduation, her ballet recitals, her high school prom. I boxed them gently, wrapping the frames in old towels, labeling the box, memories, not obligations. I wasn't erasing her, I was releasing myself. That evening, I cooked dinner for myself, a simple lemon butter pasta with roasted cherry tomatoes, the kind of meal I'd seen on a cooking show years ago, but never made because Sophie preferred chicken nuggets. The kitchen filled with the scent of garlic and lemon zest, the candle I lit casting a warm glow over the table. I set for one. I played soft jazz, the notes floating through the house like a gentle reminder that I could choose joy even in solitude. As I ate, I thought about a conversation I'd had with a YouTube viewer named Patricia72, who'd commented on one of my videos last year. I gave my kids everything, and they forgot me at their milestone moments. It took me years to realize I deserve my own happiness. Patricia's words had lingered a quiet prophecy of the moment I was living now. I'd spent decades as Sophie's background music, her safety net, her silent supporter, but I was done fading into the shadows of her story. The next morning, I woke to the sound of birdsong, the sunlight streaming through my window in golden ribbons. I made coffee black and strong and sat on my porch, my robe fluttering in the breeze. My phone buzzed. 38 unread messages, 3 voicemails, all from Sophie and Nathan, their tones a mix of confusion and anger. "Mom, why'd you cancel the brunch? Everyone's asking questions." Sophie's voice was sharp defensive. Nathan's was colder. "This is incredibly unprofessional, Eleanor. You've embarrassed us." I didn't flinch. I turned off my phone, the silence a choice, not a punishment. Let them scramble, I thought. Let them feel the absence I'd lived with for years, the absence of gratitude, of love, of respect. Around noon, I went to the grocery store, the post office small errands that felt like a quiet rebellion against the chaos I'd left behind. In the bakery aisle, I ran into my cousin Linda, who'd been at the wedding. She smiled hesitantly, her eyes flickering with guilt. "Eleanor, are you okay?" she asked, her voice low. I met her gaze, my tone steady. "Were you okay watching me sit in the kitchen, Linda knowing I paid for it all?" She flushed her hands, fidgeting with her cart. "I didn't realize it was on purpose," she stammered. I thought, maybe you wanted to be there. I shook my head, a small, sad smile on my lips. "You didn't think I said gently, that's all." She looked down, then whispered, "I'm sorry. It was wrong." I nodded the apology, a small step, not enough to heal, but enough to let me move forward. That evening, I posted a single photo on Facebook, not of the wedding, but of the $30,000 check I'd written for the venue, my signature. Clear the amount, a stark reminder of what I'd given. No caption, no explanation, just the truth they couldn't deny. The comments flooded in old friends, neighbors, even viewers from my YouTube community. "This broke my heart," Eleanor, one wrote. "Thank you for showing us we don't have to stay silent." Another, from a woman named Margaret65, said, "I've been the invisible mother, too. Your story gave me strength." As a storyteller, I've learned that sharing our pain can light the way for others, and those comments reminded me why I do this, why I share the raw, messy truths of my life. They gave me a new clarity. I wasn't alone in this pain, and I didn't have to carry it in silence anymore. I spent the next few days preparing for a dinner not for Sophie or Nathan, but for the people who'd truly seen me. I wrote a list on a yellow notepad, Marissa, my hospital friend who'd sent the letter, Mr. Thompson, my neighbor who always shoveled my driveway, Lila from the bookstore who always asked about my week, and Nurse Evelyn who'd stayed late on her birthday to cover a shift for me. No one shared my blood, but they'd chosen me, and that was enough. I cooked a meal I wanted: roasted vegetables with thyme cornbread and lemon butter pasta, setting the table with a blue sunflower cloth that made me smile. The evening was filled with laughter stories and the clinking of wine glasses, a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Marissa raised her glass, her eyes bright. To Eleanor, she said, for choosing herself, for reminding us we don't have to give to those who only take. I raised my glass, my voice steady. To the women who've been hidden away, may we always take our seat at the head of our own table. If my story resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible, despite giving your all, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below what's the moment that made you choose yourself. Subscribe for more stories of hope and healing, because this journey is just the beginning.